Julian Thorn is the Crown Prince of Manhattan. And he is a certified psycho. He is also obsessively in love with me. On our wedding day, my sister Chloe showed up in her own wedding gown to crash it. She screamed that she was a protagonist. And that if she didn't marry my fiancé, she would die. Julian, without blinking, just said, "Then die." His security team dragged her to the rooftop of the hotel. She looked down once and fainted clean away. Julian Thorn is New York royalty. Reckless, ruthless, and completely ungovernable. And for 1 year, he was my quiet, secret boyfriend. The secret part was my idea. Julian hated it, but I always managed to put him off, saying the relationship was too new or not stable enough. On our first anniversary, I came home from a shoot. And Julian suddenly presented me with a stack of binders. "Alara," he said. "These are my companies, my properties, my cars, my private equity holdings." He had so many assets, it was absurd. He even owned a few small islands. It took him over 30 minutes to list everything. Goddamn capital. My eyes were burning with the sheer, blinding injustice of it all. "Julian, what is this?" "Alara, we've been dating for a year. We're stable. Marry me. When you do, I'm transferring everything into your name. With that, he got on one knee and produced a ring. I finally understood this was a proposal. The theme of this proposal, to summarize, was, what's mine is yours. And what's yours is still yours. This kind of deal doesn't just happen. I didn't trust it. "You're just saying that. "No," he said, his face dead serious. "You won't go public because you don't feel secure. They say men turn bad when they get rich. If I give you all my money, you won't have to worry about me turning bad. That's not a guarantee. My sister Chloe has a thing for taking what's mine. In high school, in college, anytime a guy showed interest in me, Chloe would appear. And just like that, those guys would only have eyes for her. It proved that a man's loyalty has nothing to do with his bank account. This was the real reason I'd kept Julian a secret. I was terrified that if I brought him to a family dinner, he'd be instantly, magically charmed by Chloe. I'd finally found someone who chose me. I wanted it to last. "If I ever cheat on you," Julian said, his voice flat, "you have my full permission to confiscate my assets. Confiscate your assets?" He coughed. "Castrate me." I was drinking water. I choked, sputtering and coughing. He rubbed my back, all concerned. "Slow down." His deep-set eyes were full of genuine worry. I ended up saying, "Yes. Man who is willing to bet his family jewels on his own fidelity. How could I not trust him? I mean, it definitely wasn't about the billions. Of dollars? Absolutely not. Ugh. This box of deeds is surprisingly heavy. The first thing Julian did after I said yes was post on Instagram a picture of the ring. The caption, "Mine." I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. He started posting 3 times a day. More reliably than he ate. "Wife is at work. Miss her. 3 days until I see my wife. Woke up to this #blessed #no filter. The captions were so sappy I couldn't even read them. He's Julian Thorn. The comment section was just a sea of fawning OMG goals. I was embarrassed he was defensive. "I'm making up for a year of lost time. I texted back, "Whatever makes you happy." Because of Julian's reputation, everyone in his circle knows not to leak his personal life to the press. So despite his non-stop posting, not a word of it hit page 6. Didn't stop at Instagram. He gave his entire company a 3-day paid holiday. His employees were ecstatic. The company-wide Slack channel blew up. "Thank you, Julian's girlfriend." Julian's girlfriend is a national hero. May Julian and his girlfriend live long and prosper. A happy CEO is a blessing upon us all. When I still hadn't told my family, Julian cornered me. "Alara, is it me? Am I not handsome enough? Not rich enough? Or am I not good enough?" As the heir to the Thorn Empire. His status was untouchable. His face was better than 90% of the actors I worked with as Ford. Not good enough. I shot him a look and rubbed my lower back. He had the nerve to ask, I just want to tell my family in person. I said. Before we make a public announcement in person. He blinked and then a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. You're taking me home. I didn't realize you were this serious about me. He'd misunderstood. I wasn't taking him home to introduce him. I was taking him home to test him. If he, like all the others, took one look at Chloe and was instantly bewitched, then this relationship didn't need to be announced. It needed to be terminated. But if he passed, if he could withstand her, then it was real. The monthly family dinner was on the 15th. We just stepped inside the front door, when I heard voices from the living room. Chloe, honey. You're saying your sister slept with an investor? And then she had the nerve to steal your role? It was my mother. Chloe's voice was a pathetic little sob. Yes. The director promised me the part. He said it was mine. Then right before signing, he said a new massive investor came on board and that he and Alara were involved. The investor made him give her the part. Was not what happened. The director and writer had approached me from the beginning. They said they'd written the script with me in mind. The day before I was supposed to sign, my sister heard about the film, met with the director, and suddenly he changed his mind. He told me Chloe just had the right energy. If she was right for the role, I wouldn't have cared. But the character was a cold, cynical detective. My sister has the face of a cartoon chipmunk. Chloe just has this magic. She makes people adore her. Makes them want to give her whatever she wants. And the thing she wants most is whatever I have. I should have been used to it. But it still hurt. I've been in a funk for days. Julian, seeing me upset, found out why. To cheer me up, he invested an obscene amount of money in the film, on the non-negotiable condition that I was cast. I learned that day that my sister's magic charm was no match for a 9-figure check. She was furious, so she ran straight to our parents. My mother's voice was sharp. How did I raise such a shameless, disgusting thing? We gave her everything, and she repays us by becoming some investor's whore. And to do it to her own sister. Mom, Dad, don't be mad at her, Chloe said, her voice dripping with fake concern. She's just lost. This industry is so toxic. If you just talk to her, I'm sure she'll see the error of her ways. My father sighed. Chloe, if only your sister were half as decent as you. My mother snarled. I regret the day she was born. Julian's face went dark. His entire posture shifted, radiating a cold fury. I was, I'd seen the show 100 times. It was always my fault. I was always the one who had to apologize. To give my things to Chloe. I'd stopped being sad about it years ago. I'd given up on them. Julian started to step forward, and I squeezed his hand. Wait. Needed him to see this. To see my sister for what she really was. Maybe then he wouldn't fall for her. A moment later, the housekeeper saw us. Oh, Miss Alara. You're here. My parents hadn't seen Julian, who was slightly hidden by a large plant. My mother stormed over. Alara. You have the nerve to show your face. We don't have a daughter who sells her body. Get out. She pointed a finger at me. But before you go, you will call that director. Give the role back to your sister. And apologize. I kept my voice level. I'm not sleeping with anyone. That investor is my boyfriend. And the movie was written for me. Sister, I heard you've been dating for over a year. Chloe said sweetly. If he's really your boyfriend, why haven't you ever brought him home? The director was clearly just making an excuse for you. My mother was even angrier. You ungrateful brat. Chloe is defending you. And you're still lying. You break up with that sugar daddy now. Or you are no daughter of mine. Julian had heard enough. He stepped out from behind the plant. His voice like ice. Who exactly are you telling her to break up with? She doesn't have a sugar daddy. I'm her boyfriend. Sister. This is your boyfriend? Chloe's eyes locked onto Julian. I saw a flicker in them, a bright, hungry spark. She. He was interested. Julian Thorn is a big deal. Even my social climbing parents knew who he was. You're Julian Thorn. My father stammered. Julian gave a curt nod. My parents' entire world revolved around climbing a ladder that Julian's family had built. They looked from me to Julian, and their faces instantly melted into grotesque, fawning smiles. My mother grabbed my arm. Her grip suddenly affectionate. Elara, darling, why didn't you tell us you were dating someone so wonderful? My mother's voice was a sickening syrup, a complete 180-degree turn from the screeching harpy she had been 30 seconds ago. She reached out to smooth a wrinkle on my blazer, a gesture of intimacy that made my skin crawl. I didn't have to answer. Julian did it for me. Wonderful. Julian repeated, the word rolling around his mouth like a piece of dry ice. He didn't step away from my mother, he simply looked down at her hand on my arm until she flinched and pulled it back, as if she'd touched a hot stove. Strange. I was under the impression I was a sugar daddy stealing your daughter's virtue. Oh, that was just a misunderstanding. My father laughed, a nervous, braying sound. He wiped his sweaty palms on his slacks. We're protective parents, Mr. Thorn. You understand. We just want the best for Elara. Is that so? Julian's arm tightened around my waist, pulling me flush against his side. He felt like a marble wall, solid, immovable, and cold to the touch for everyone but me. Because from where I was standing, it sounded like you wanted the best for the other one. He turned his gaze to Chloe. My sister was standing in the center of the living room, striking a pose she usually reserved for red carpets. She had tilted her head down, looking up through her lashes, lips slightly parted. It was the innocent doe look. The one that had worked on my high school boyfriend, my college lab partner, and the lead actor in my last drama. Hi, Chloe breathed, stepping forward. She ignored me entirely. I'm Chloe. I act, too. You might have seen me in Summer's Last Kiss. She extended a hand. Her wrist was limp, inviting him to take it, perhaps kiss it. Julian stared at her hand. Then he looked at her face. He didn't take it. You're the sister, he stated flatly. Chloe's smile faltered for a microsecond before she dialed up the wattage. I am. Elara and I are so close. I was just telling Mom and Dad how worried I was about her dating, just anyone. But if I'd known it was you. She laughed, a tinkling, practiced sound. Well, obviously, I would have known she was in good hands. Maybe we could all sit down. I'd love to hear about your business. I've always been fascinated by private equity. I felt a knot of dread in my stomach. This was it. The magic. She was turning it on. She was beautiful, bubbly, and saying exactly what a powerful man wanted to hear. I waited for Julian's grip to loosen. I waited for him to smile back. Julian tilted his head, studying her like a biologist examining a particularly grotesque insect under a microscope. Elara, he said, not breaking eye contact with Chloe. Yes? I whispered. You were right, he deadpanned. She does look like a chipmunk. The silence that slammed into the room was absolute. Chloe's jaw unhinged. The seductive smile froze, twitching at the corners. Excuse me. The cheeks, Julian said, gesturing vaguely with his free hand. And the eyes. Very rodent-like. I don't see the appeal. He finally looked away from her, dismissing her existence entirely, and turned his terrifyingly intense gaze on my father. Mr. Vance. You called my girlfriend a whore. My father went pale. Now, hold on, I was. You also demanded she return a role that I specifically bought for her. Julian stepped forward, the air in the room seeming to drop 10 degrees. Let me make the hierarchy of this family very clear to you, since you seem confused. Elara is the sun. You are the dirt she walks on. If she is upset, I am displeased. And when I am displeased, things tend to get expensive for people. We're family, my mother shrieked, panic finally overriding her greed. That is the only reason you still have a roof over your heads, Julian said softly. Ilara? I looked up at him. Yes? Are we done here? I find the air in this house stale. I looked at my parents, terrified, grasping, pathetic. I looked at Chloe, whose face was currently twisting into a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred now that her charm had failed. We're done, I said. Good. Julian turned us toward the door. Ilara. Chloe screamed, dropping the act completely. You bitch. You told him lies about me. You poisoned him. Julian paused at the door. He didn't look back. She didn't have to say a word, Chloe. I have a very low tolerance for mediocrity. And you are painfully mediocre. He opened the door, and we walked out into the cool evening air. As we reached the car, his security detail opened the door. I slid into the leather interior, shaking. Julian got in beside me. As the car pulled away, he pulled me into his lap, burying his face in my neck. Did I pass? He murmured against my skin. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. You passed. Good, he said, and I could hear the dark promise in his voice. Because now that I know they make you cry, I'm going to ruin them. I thought the dinner was the climax. I was wrong. It was the inciting incident. Over the next 6 months, my life became a surreal blend of fairy tale romance and corporate warfare. Chloe didn't take the rejection lying down. A week after the dinner, she went to the tabloids. She sold a sob story about how her estranged, jealous sister had used her new billionaire boyfriend to blacklist Chloe from Hollywood. She played the victim perfectly. She cried on talk shows. She posted tearful TikToks. #SaveChloe started trending. I was in Julian's penthouse, watching my sister fake cry on Good Morning America, feeling sick. I should just give her the role, I said, putting my head in my hands. Julian, the hate mail is getting bad. They're calling me a gold digger. Julian was sitting at his desk, typing furiously. He didn't look up. Let them type. It gives my legal team something to do. You don't understand. She wins. She always wins. Julian stopped typing. He spun his chair around. He was wearing his reading glasses, which somehow made him look even more dangerous. Ilara, come here. I walked over. He pulled me down so I was straddling his lap. Your sister is playing checkers, Julian said, running a hand through my hair. I am playing 4D chess with a sniper rifle. Do you trust me? Yes. Then watch. He turned me toward his computer screens. Phase 1, Julian said. Exposure. He hit a key. 2 days later, the narrative shifted. It wasn't a slow turn, it was a violent snap. Julian hadn't just sued the tabloids, he had bought the parent company of the magazine that ran Chloe's story and fired the editor publicly. But that was just the flex. The kill shot was the audio. Julian's security team had been recording during that dinner. The audio leak hit the internet at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. By 9:15 a.m., the world heard my mother calling me a whore. They heard Chloe admitting she wanted to steal my role. They heard the greed in my father's voice. The #SaveChloe hashtag died instantly, replaced by #ThornQueen. But Julian wasn't done. Phase 2, he told me over dinner that night. Assets. My parents' house. It turned out the bank that held their mortgage was a subsidiary of Thorn Enterprises. They were 3 months behind on payments. Usually, a bank would offer a grace period. Julian's bank offered them an eviction notice. Julian, I said, seeing the paperwork. Isn't this a bit much? They're my parents. They treated you like a commodity, he said, cutting his steak with surgical precision. I am simply treating them like a bad investment. I'm liquidating them. He looked at me, his eyes dark and serious. I told you. What's mine is yours. And that includes my wrath. You don't have to be the bad guy, Ilara. I will be the monster for you. I enjoy it. I should have been horrified. I should have told him to stop. But I remembered the years of Chloe stealing my clothes, my friends, my confidence. I remembered my mother telling me I was unlovable. Okay, I whispered. Liquidate them. Chloe, however, was desperate. And desperation makes people delusional. She lost her agent. She lost her roles. She was living in a motel because my parents had moved into a one-bedroom rental in Queens. She had nothing left but her belief that she was the protagonist of reality. And in her mind, the only reason she was losing was because she hadn't had a proper chance to connect with Julian. She convinced herself that I was the witch keeping the prince under a spell. She began sending letters to Julian's office. Scented with cheap perfume. She's not right for you. I know you felt the spark. Save me. Julian burned them in the fireplace, laughing. She actually thinks she has a chance. It's fascinating. It's like watching a coyote try to seduce a bear. She won't stop, I warned him. She's going to do something crazy. Let her, Julian said, kissing my forehead. I'm ready. Then came the proposal I told you about. The binders. The islands. The promise of fidelity backed by castration. We set the date. A winter wedding at the Plaza Hotel. The event of the decade. We didn't invite my family. The day of the wedding was cold and bright. New York was dusted in snow. I was in the bridal suite, surrounded by my bridesmaids, actual friends I'd made, not Chloe's spies. I wore a dress of custom lace, fitted to perfection, with a train that pooled like liquid moonlight. I felt safe. Julian had security tighter than the Pentagon. Every guest had been vetted. There was no way they could get in. I walked down the aisle to a string quartet version of Young and Beautiful. Julian stood at the altar. He looked devastating in a tuxedo, his eyes locked on me as if I were the only source of oxygen in the room. When I reached him, he took my hands. His grip was warm. You look. He seemed to struggle for a word, shaking his head. Mine. The priest began the ceremony. It was beautiful. Quiet. Perfect. If anyone here has any just cause why these two may not be joined. The doors at the back of the ballroom slammed open with a sound like a gunshot. A collective gasp ripped through the room. Standing there, backlit by the hallway lights, was Chloe. She wasn't wearing street clothes. She was wearing a wedding dress. A massive, poofy, rhinestone-encrusted monstrosity that looked like a cupcake exploded. It was stained at the hem with city slush. She looked deranged. Her makeup was smeared, her hair wild. Stop, she screamed, pointing a manicured finger at the altar. Stop the wedding. Security guards moved toward her, but Julian held up a hand. Wait, he commanded. His voice was calm, amplified by the lapel mic. Let her speak. I want to hear this. Chloe marched down the aisle. The guests parted like the Red Sea, murmuring in shock. She looked triumphant. In her head, the music was swelling. In her head, this was the moment the hero realized he was marrying the wrong sister. She stopped 10 feet from us. You can't marry her, Julian, she panted, her chest heaving. She's boring. She's plain. She's the side character. I'm the one you want. I'm the protagonist of this story. I squeezed Julian's hand. I expected him to be angry. Instead, he looked bored. Are you finished? Julian asked. No. Chloe shrieked. Her eyes were wide, darting around the room, looking for the cameras. This is destiny. If you don't marry me. If I don't get my happy ending. She grabbed a steak knife from a guest's table and held it to her own throat. The room screamed. If you don't marry me, I'll die, she wailed. I'll do it. I swear. I cannot live in a world where she wins. Choose, Julian. Me or her. If you don't choose me, I die right now. The silence stretched. It was heavy, thick with tension. Everyone looked at Julian. Julian didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He adjusted his cufflink. Then die, he said. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a taunt. It was an instruction. Chloe froze. The knife wobbled in her hand. What? You said you would die, Julian said, his voice echoing in the silent ballroom. I am waiting. Proceed. Chloe lowered the knife slightly, confusion warring with her madness. But, you're supposed to stop me. You're supposed to save me. Why? Julian asked, genuinely curious. I don't like you. I don't want you. You are a nuisance who has tormented my wife for 2 decades. If you remove yourself from the equation, you save me the legal fees of a restraining order. So, please. Go ahead. Chloe looked around the room. She saw no sympathy. Only horror and disgust. Her main character energy flickered and died. I. Security, Julian barked. The amusement was gone. Get this trash out of my sight. 3 large men descended on her. Chloe screamed as they grabbed her arms. No. I'm the bride. I'm the star. You can't do this. Take her to the roof, Julian said into his headset. Let her cool off. They dragged her out, her heels scraping across the marble floor, leaving scratches. Her screams faded into the corridor. Julian turned back to me. He reached out and tucked a stray hair behind my ear. Sorry about the interruption, my love, he said softly. Where were we? Ah, yes. I do. The reception continued, but Julian and I slipped away for a moment. I want to see her, I said. Julian paused. Alara, you don't have to. I do. I need to see it ended. He nodded. We took the private elevator to the roof. The wind was whipping across the top of the plaza. It was freezing. Security was there, standing in a circle. In the center, huddled in her ruined wedding dress, shivering violently, was Chloe. She looked up as we approached. Her mascara was running in black streaks down her face. She looked small. Alara, she chattered, her teeth clicking. Alara, tell them to let me go. It's cold. Give me your wrap. Even now. Even here. I looked at her. I looked at the sister I had spent my life trying to please, trying to share with, trying to love. And I felt nothing. The cord had finally snapped. No, I said. Chloe blinked. What? I'm not giving you my wrap. I'm not giving you my role. I'm not giving you my husband. I stepped closer, my hand in Julian's. You aren't the protagonist, Chloe. You never were. You were just the villain in my origin story. And your part is over. You can't leave me here. Julian stepped forward. He walked to the edge of the roof and looked down at the street, 50 stories below. You know, he said conversationally, I own this building. I could have you thrown off, and the police report would say you slipped in your grief. A tragic suicide. Chloe scrambled back, pressing herself against a ventilation unit. No. Please. I don't want to die. Then disappear, Julian hissed, turning on her with a snarl that was purely feral. If I ever see your face again, in a magazine, on a screen, or on my street, I won't be as polite as I was today. Do you understand? Chloe nodded frantically, sobbing. She looked down at the dizzying drop, then back at Julian's demon eyes. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and she slumped sideways, fainting clean away on the gravel roof. Julian nudged her unconscious form with his shiny dress shoe. Dramatic to the end, he muttered. He turned to the head of security. When she wakes up, put her on a bus to North Dakota. I bought a small dairy farm there. She can work off her debt milking cows. No internet, no phone. North Dakota? I asked, raising an eyebrow. It seemed fitting. No audience. Julian offered me his arm. Shall we go back to the party, Mrs. Thorn? I believe we have a cake to cut. 3 years later. I sat in the garden of our estate in the Hamptons, reading a script. It was for my production company's newest film. I wasn't acting much anymore, I preferred producing. I liked being the one in control. Mommy. A toddler with messy black hair and Julian's fierce eyes waddled across the grass, followed closely by a panicked nanny. Leo. I laughed, catching him as he threw himself into my lap. Julian appeared a moment later, carrying 2 glasses of lemonade. He had mellowed in the last few years. Well, mellowed is relative. He hadn't threatened to castrate anyone in at least 6 months. He sat down next to us, leaning over to kiss me. How's the script? Good, I said. Although the villain is a bit two-dimensional. Nobody is that evil for no reason. You'd be surprised, Julian murmured. Speaking of, I said, putting the script down. I got a letter from Mom today. Julian stiffened. I thought I blocked their mail. It got through to the agency. She says dad's back hurts from the warehouse job and they need money for surgery. Julian took a sip of lemonade. The company health insurance plan covers back surgery. I made sure of it when I bought the warehouse they work in. They just have to fill out the forms like everyone else. And Chloe? Employee of the month at the dairy for the 3rd time running, Julian said with a smirk. Apparently, the cows like her singing voice. It's the only audience she has. I leaned back, resting my head on his shoulder. My family was gone, not dead, but gone from my life. The fear was gone. The need to hide my happiness was gone. Julian rested his hand on my knee. Are you happy, Elara? I looked at the massive diamond on my finger, then at our son playing in the grass, and finally at the man who had burned the world down just to build a warm spot for me to stand. I'm not just happy, Julian, I said, smiling. I'm the protagonist. Julian grinned, that dangerous, possessive, psycho grin that I had fallen in love with. Yes, he said. You are. And I'm just the guy holding the purse. He kissed me, and for the first time in my life, I didn't worry about when the other shoe would drop. I owned the shoe store.